You're in Braves country.
Good afternoon, Braves country, and what a gut punch. And it's getting to the point where I think a lot of Braves fans, we're no longer antsy, we're disappointed, we're severely disappointed in the Atlanta Braves in what they've done in the offseason. And if I don't see a lot of people in the chat today, I honestly am not shocked. If you missed the news, AJ Minter signed a 2-year, $22 million deal to join the New York Mets. So AJ Minter is now off the board. And this was reported by Jeff Passan and a couple of Rosenthal and a couple others about an hour ago. So that is the biggest gut punch of the day, is that AJ Minter's now he's not just not coming back to the Braves, he's heading to the New York Mets. And you talk about a nasty bullpen now, that's going to be a nasty bullpen, because you're going to have what they already had coming back along with Edwin Diaz as their closer, and now they've got a great setup man in AJ Minter. Now what we can hope is that AJ Minter, after coming back from hip surgery, would somehow not be as effective. I just don't believe in that, because I believe that AJ Minter has always been a nasty competitor. And I'm not going to say I'm going to wish him well, because he's a New York Met. And that's not in me to wish anyone in our division well. But he gave the Braves everything he had over the last several years. He's a big reason why the Atlanta Braves won the World Series in 2021. He was a part of the night shift, and I get it. You can't always go back to where you were in 2021. I understand all that. But even with that being said, I mean, this is just an absolute gut punch. We got the different view today. One of the reasons why, and I'm going to change it here in 1 second, we do have a new article up on X, Braves Country X. It is a tribute to Bob Uecker, and it is called "I Must Be in the Front Row." Those of y'all who are Bob Uecker fans will understand the reference, and I hope you enjoy it. It's just a short little article. The link is in today's show, so you can click from there. And just basically this week, we weren't doing an article on the Atlanta Braves. This one was about, I mean, Bob Uecker did spend a couple of seasons with the Braves organization, but he's really known as being a Milwaukee guy. He's with the Milwaukee Braves for 2 years. Atlanta for one, his final year in 1967, 2 years after the Braves moved back to Atlanta. But then he spent his entire career from, or was it 1971 all the way in through this past season in some capacity as the play-by-play man, legendary play-by-play man of the Milwaukee Brewers. Back to and if you want to read that, once again, it's on X, what used to be called Twitter, Braves Country X. It's under our articles, or you can just click on the link in our in the chat here. All right. AJ Minter is a New York Met. That's not the end of the world if we end up getting Tanner Scott. He's still out there. The Braves have been rumored to be involved with Tanner Scott, but nothing has happened. And we are now sitting here January 17th. Pitchers and catchers report in less than a month, in about 3.5 weeks. And now we're at the point as a fan base where we're starting to get really irritated. The sitting on their hands, not doing a damn thing. All they've done is sell during the offseason and let guys walk away. And we understood that, but this is the first time in a very long time that the Atlanta Braves organization has been absolutely just limp. It's been a wet noodle just laying there. They haven't done a damn thing. We keep hearing these rumors that they were in on this guy and in on that guy, and the Jeff Hoffman deal fell through because of the physical. And they weren't the only ones. The Baltimore Orioles told Hoffman to kick rocks as well. Toronto gave him the money. And in the whole thing with the Hoffman deal is this: if there was something to really be concerned with, I get that, and I don't hate the fact that we made a decision not to go with them. But that was over a week ago, and we still haven't done a damn thing. You'll see that we were doing some changes in the studio, trying to do a little bit of a makeover by the time the season starts, and we'll be looking into that. You'll see it slowly evolve, and hopefully by by the regular season, you'll see some different things. We no longer have that one bookshelf that used to be behind us that had all the different things on it. I wanted more of a cleaner look behind us. Got some things we're going to add behind it, but you see there's that home plate that's hanging above there, the Atlanta Braves home plate. I got that as a fan. I got that as a Christmas gift? No. Birthday. It was a birthday gift in 1995, the year they won the World Series. So that's why I've always held it. It has been here the whole time. You just never been able to see it because it's been sitting out in our man cave, garage, television watching zone that is just around the corner, and we're reconstructing that, and I finally decided to bring it in. So that home plate is from 1995, the first World Series championship in Atlanta, and so it's always meant something to me. It's really, I think it's probably a piece of junk. It's probably worth $15 when it was bought, but I love it. And it does actually feel like a home plate and everything like that, for those of y'all are wondering. Beef says that she loves the gnome. Yeah, that gnome, I've gotten, it's fairly recent. I don't believe it was this Christmas, but it's fairly recent, and we've just never had room for it. That thing is tall as hell, by the way. It'll go up and down, and it's been in here in the past behind me, but I don't think you could really see it because essentially it was, let me see how my hands go. Essentially, it would have been back here. There we go, back there. I'm looking at the television replay, see if we have any comments, and threw myself off there. But for those of y'all who are joining us right now, AJ Mentor is a New York Metropolitan, and he is he gone. And I got the feeling all along that it wasn't trending that we were going to get him, because it's kept looking and more like, I kind of felt like that if the Braves were going to bring him back, first of all, let's be honest. And I know we don't look at it in the same realm because it's a relief pitcher, but let's be honest. When the Braves let people go to free agency, they never come back. They always get a better money deal elsewhere. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we are handcuffed by our television deal that has, 2027 is when we finally get out from under that damn thing. And you're going to see a much bigger ability to spend at that point. But that's a long ways away. That doesn't do us any good now. But Sonny Gray, I'm seeing being a, who was that? Was a question. Who was the question? Was that John asking about Sonny Gray? I don't. Somebody asked on about Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, I have my doubts that that's going to happen, because when all those rumors started coming out, that was months ago, and the question is, why is St. Louis going to trade Sonny Gray and eat a crap ton of the salary unless they're going to get one of our elite prospects? And do you really believe, because I don't, do you really believe that they're going to give a Hurston Waldrop away for a Sonny Gray? I really don't. And so that appears to be less and less likely. I still think there's an outside chance that we get Jordan Montgomery. But Jordan Montgomery, once again, for them to eat quite a bit of cash. The difference between the Montgomery deal and the Gray deal, Montgomery's just for one season, so you could see less prospects being needed to bring that in. With Sonny Gray, you still have 2 more seasons. What do they want from that? And if they don't get what they think that they deserve, the Cardinals will just wait till the trade deadline and see what they can do then and see where they are. The Cardinals are not expected to be that great, and I really don't believe that they will be either, but you just never know. And, the one thing that I will, John said, dark horse for Sasaki. Yeah, that's not happening. For those of y'all who have missed that news, Sasaki, I guess I should go ahead and play the soundbite. Smoke them if you got them. These are all the hot and trending topics that are going on right now.
Read all about it.
What's it all about? What caused that commotion? What's all the shouting?
Sasaki appears to be a 2-team race. I was floored. They eliminated the Padres. I really believed it came down to the Padres and the Dodgers. Well, evidently it's coming down to the Toronto Blue Jays and the Dodgers. Common sense would tell you he's probably going to be a Dodger. And they've got to fix the damn rules in Major League Baseball, because for these guys to be able to come out and continue to choose their team when this is their first exposure to Major League Baseball, and don't give me that crap about, well, but they've been a professional baseball player over in Japan, and so they should be a free agent now. Not when you're coming in the direction that Sasaki's coming in. When you're coming in and Yamamoto, and he was a true free agent, and he signed a $300 million deals, tip of the cap to you. Whoever can afford him wherever he wants to go, I get it. But when you talk about a guy who's limited by the money that he can make over the next several years because he's coming in early at age 23, not to age 25, at that point, I feel like there needs to be some kind of a draft for him. You want to come in early and you want to make, and depending on his skill set, he should get top dollar. I agree with that part of it. But, and I'm not saying this for the Braves standpoint, but why should the Dodgers continue to make all these moves and just acquire all these players? Because what they've done is they've cornered the market on the top Japanese players. And with that being said, it's starting to have an unfair advantage because they're starting to just collect them, and they don't even care if these guys are. They don't care if Roki Sasaki makes a real contribution the next several years because he's going to be making peanuts compared to everybody else. So I just really feel like that it is high time for that part of it to change. Now, we do have some good news. And the main thing on the good news is the Atlanta Braves have hit the international market. And by the way, MLB Network, I'm not going to go on a big rant on this, but MLB Network last night revealed their top 10 second basemen in Major League Baseball. 10. Not top 3, not top 5, 10. Top 10. Ozzie Albies isn't on the damn list. What? Ozzie Albies isn't a top 5, a top 10 second baseman? Yeah, right. Gleyber Torres, Nico Hunter, Andre Jimenez, Brandon Lowe, Tyler Fitzgerald, who, by the way, had a good year last year, but he's a little unproven. Jazz Chisholm, even Brendan Donovan. There is no way in hell any of those guys should be ranked above Ozzie Albies. I'll give you Ketel Marte. I'll give you Jose Altuve. I'll give you Marcus Semien, even though he didn't have a great year last year. A hell of a career. But after that, bare minimum, Ozzie Albies is number 4. We move on. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some of the deals that have happened. By the way, the Mets also re-signed Jesse Winker. He was someone I had an eye on all offseason, but I didn't think it was likely because I don't think the Braves are looking to bring in that extra outfielder from the left side of the plate because we already have so many left-handed outfielders on our roster. And the Brewers, by the way, signed Jorge Alfaro, the catcher. That's I'll tell you right now, and we went over in the article that we released last week, so if you want to go on to Exit and find our article there from last week with the predictions, I'm pretty sure Chadwick Tromp is going to be our backup catcher. They're not going – I don't think they want to DFA him, which they would have to because he's on the 40-man and he's unprotected. So they couldn't just send him down to the minors. I don't think they want to DFA him, and I think they believe that it's time for Sean Murphy to take the lion's share. Okay. We're probably not signing an extra catcher. But the ones that could have been signed for cheap, the veterans, they're vanishing. Now, the guy that's been trending the most of the signees was a guy by the name of Roddy Reyes. It's spelled Raudy, Roddy Reyes, he is a 16-year-old. I saw the number yesterday, 6'4", 220 pounds. You look at the picture of this kid, and you can zoom in up close. I'll be the very first person to tell you, I don't believe he's 16 either. It's a whole thread going on on X the last couple of days. Everyone making jokes about him being 16. Yeah, right. That kind of thing. And a lot of these guys do lie about their age. They do, because it gives them more value. If you wonder why, it's the same reason why women will lie about their age at a bar. It gives them more value. If you think they're younger, you're like, hey, you know what? The same thing with the player. When you see a player he's a flamethrower. He throws high gas, high 90s. And you see him at 6'4", 220, and you believe he's 16 years old, you instantly go, damn. But if you would have told he was 20, 21 years old, 19 years old, you might be impressed, but you're not as impressed, and it's just going to make them more money. It's been going on for years. I don't have any proof that he's not, but at the same token, I don't have any damn proof that he is. Someone tried to show a picture of him from a couple of years ago when he was supposedly 14, and he was a little younger and a little smaller. Okay, whoopity-doo. What if he's just a guy that was a late bloomer, and that very well could be a picture of him from 2 years ago. That doesn't mean he was necessarily 14, because he looked too damn big to be 14, so whatever. But anyways, that's the guy that everyone's got their eyes on. But if he truly is 16 years old, best case scenario, you don't see him for 2 years. So that's not going to help this year's team, if you're wondering about that. The Jorge Alfaro, he goes to the Brewers. Diego Torres was the other kid that the Braves signed. Those are really the two that headlined the signings. And you're talking about a pretty good signing class for the international players. But once again, none of these guys are being expected to contribute this season. Best case scenario, Diego Torres could be a guy that contributes by 2026 or 7. If Reyes really is 16 years old, you got to figure he's at least 2028 or beyond. By the time we remember him, he could just end up being a trade piece later on. But those are the two big names if you didn't pay attention to that. There's still guys out there that the Braves could sign. And we're going to hit that in the rumor segment here in 1 second. But a couple of things that I did want to hit up on. So the fact that the Braves are doing nothing right now, and then A.J. Minter signs the 2-year deal with the Mets. I mean, of all the damn teams, the Mets. You're starting to wonder if did the Braves tick him off? What did they offer him if he took 22 over 2 for the Mets? It couldn't have been much, because your dollar doesn't stretch as far in New York City as it does in Atlanta, Georgia. So I figure at the most, the Braves gave him like a 1-year deal and probably lowballed it. Now, there is question on whether or not when he will be available in the 2025 season. And I can understand why the Braves may have not made an aggressive offer, because you're already going to be missing Jimenez out of the bullpen. You can't just keep throwing cash at guys that you hope are going to be back by the second half of the season. So, with all that being said, it's going to be gross to see A.J. Minter in a Mets uniform. You know, Dansby Swanson became a Cub. Freddie became a Dodger. Max is a Yankee. None of those teams are in our division. And it's just going to be gross to see a member of the night shift. And I know there are a lot of Braves country that didn't believe in him or whatever. The dude always, on the biggest stage, A.J. Minter always delivered. So I'm going to miss him. I ain't no way in hell I'm wishing him well. Jose Quintana is still out there on the free agency list. We'll get into some of that here in a second. I saw this one article that people were clamoring about the Mariners designating Samad Taylor, 26-year-old outfielder, to make room for Blake Hunt during the Rule 5. Okay, well, and people are talking, well, he's an outfielder. He stole 50 bases in the minors last year. The problem with thinking you're going to pick up Taylor, the kid just doesn't get on base. So, yes, he may be a good base runner, but he doesn't get on base. He had a very low OPS down in the minor leagues. And I think he just took advantage of the fact that, you know, it's a big difference between the majors and the minors. But every time he has gone to the major leagues, he's hitting like below the Mendoza line. Couple other deals that have taken place since last time we talked. By the way, that Hoffman deal was 3 years, $33 million. And it sounded like the Braves had him in place until he did not pass the physical. No one gets into what that means because the player doesn't want to say and the teams aren't allowed to say. But the Braves turned him down, the Orioles turned him down, and the Toronto Blue Jays, who have been kind of jumping up and down, please somebody sign with me, they threw $33 million at him. So take that for what it's worth. The Braves did add Garrett Cooper, if you missed that. Garrett Cooper, if he sounds familiar, he should. He was with the Marlins for quite some time. Always a really good hitter. He's a first baseman. Not really someone who's likely to crack the lineup for the Braves or crack the everyday roster for the Braves because Matt Olson tends to play every day. Cooper does not have a lot of. Remember we signed Brian Anderson for a very short stint last year. That was the third baseman that had played for the Marlins. Garrett Cooper's a first baseman / DH. Well, he's not unseating Matt Olson. He's not unseating Marcell Ozuna. So I think there's a very good chance that Cooper stays down in their minor league system just as a insurance in case something were to happen, someone were to get injured. Because you don't get a lot of flexibility putting him on your everyday roster because he can't play any defense except over on first base. And they never give Olson, they never give our DH Ozuna a day off. So what's the point? A pinch hitter? I think they're more likely to get. And at one point, Garrett Cooper was a very good batter. I mean, he was averaging about 20 home runs a year, but that's 3-4 seasons ago. Next thing on the list as we go into this, the Nationals signed Jorge Lopez. You probably remember him. He had the temper tantrum when he was with the Mets last year. Long story short, not a big deal to sign him to a deal, but they did. Mariners signed Donovan Solano to a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. Nothing big there. This one, you will remember this in Braves country. Miles Mastrobuoni goes from the Cubs to the Mariners in a trade. He was the one, the last name Mastrobuoni, you can fill in the blanks yourselves, but he was the one that trended when he's actually did it a couple of times, but one specific time when he played the Braves, on the announcers kind of getting tripped up on his name because of who was all over the base paths and a play on words of the last name Mastrobuoni. Yankees signed Dominic Smith. That took place. That was either Sunday or Monday. That shocked me. I didn't even know that he was still kicking around. Dominic Smith was with the Nationals. He was with the Mets. He was the guy several years ago that there was a legitimate argument that he was going to be the first baseman of the future of the New York Mets and not Pete Alonso. That's right up there with the. Remember when the Braves, it was around the same time period that the Braves were on the fence on whether or not Austin Riley was going to be their everyday third baseman. It was right around that same time period. Keston Hiura was signed to a minor league contract by the Rockies. And see if we have anything else of note. No. And I think we did all the international stuff that we realistically need to do. the Braves international pool. By the way, we expect now. I believe he's got to have it. I believe Sasaki's got to have his decision on where he's going by the 23rd of January. I suspect we get it this weekend. I'm pulling for Toronto, mainly because of the Dodgers continuing just to collect these chips. It's gonna make the game of baseball pretty damn boring if the Dodgers have the best offense and the best starting staff in baseball. I mean, at that point, and I know that isn't a guarantee a World Series, but the Dodger fatigue's already set in with most fans. It's going to get to an all-time level if this continues. The other cool thing would be Toronto kind of needs someone to lean on. But I am shocked that San Diego is not his spot. Yu Darvish supposedly is his idol. He's supposedly like good friends with Yu Darvish, but for whatever reason, he said no to. And for people who are wondering, it's not money. The money is capped. Everybody's offering the same money. And if you're an up-and-coming pitcher and you think you have a chance to make a lot of money down the road and you want to win, I'm sorry, but why the hell are the Blue Jays even in the conversation? They're going to be selling at the end of this year. All right. And the other great thing is if he picks up Toronto, if he goes to Toronto, we'll never see him. Okay, let's see if there's anything else left here. There was a couple things. By the way, I don't know if Carrie's in the chat today, but Henry Torres, the catcher, Venezuelan catcher that signed with the Reds, he is highly talented, and most people believe that he is a dark horse to actually make an impact pretty damn quickly as a 5-tool catcher. So keep an eye on that one. Elias Reyno was another outfielder. Now, he's not one of the bigger kids, but he was another outfielder that the Braves signed as well. All right, we move on from that. Let's go ahead and go into the rumors as we get kicking here on. Man, it's hard to believe. January 17th and the Atlanta Braves have done absolutely squad diddly. All right.
That's the rumor.
You retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
All right, let's go ahead and get the rumor mill going. If you're looking at who's available and who we would be eyeing, I still in my heart of hearts have a hard time believing that we're not going to add anything, that nobody's coming. So I've got to believe if the Mets have pivoted to A.J. Minter, I'm still banking on the fact that Tanner Scott's our guy. I just don't understand what the damn holdup is. We heard a rumor 3 weeks ago that they thought they had a deal in. And these are the ones that fell through that people said they had a beat on it. None of it ever came to be true. But one of them was the Jeff Hoffman signing. And the other one has been Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott, for whatever reason, nobody has signed him. Now, I don't know if he's being unrealistic with his numbers, not him, but his agent being unrealistic with his numbers. That might have a lot to do with it. But looking at what is available out there, I mean, you're talking about at this point where guys that are available that are left, and I don't know what the average fan believes, but I'm starting to believe that we're not signing a starting pitcher, not during this time period, that we're going to go into the starting rotation with pretty much what we have until these guys get to the point where they're panicking and they don't have any other choice but to try to jump on somewhere. And at that point, the Braves may be looking at it as we want multiple cheap options to fill that fourth and fifth role, because none of the guys that are out there that we're in the market for are a real possibility to be in an October rotation. Because if everything goes well, and why the hell would it? Because it never has. But if everything were to go well, your starting rotation in October would be some version of Max Fried. I'm sorry, not Max Fried. He just flashed across the bottom line. Chris Sale, Schwellenbach, assuming Strider comes back, and Ronaldo Lopez. So long term, you're looking at it as you need that fifth option. And that's what we're going to look at today. The guys that are actually available as free agents. It's funny, I go onto one of these sites. They still have Max Fried and Charlie Morton as available. And we both know that's not true, but that just, it throws me off as I'm scanning through here. But looking at the starting pitchers that are available, Max Scherzer still out there. Not a guy I want, but if you could get him at a super cheap deal and he's really just coming back to win, he doesn't give off that vibe. This guy made $43 million last year. Is he going to come in for a $5 million deal? Consider this guy who ran the players union. I seriously doubt it. Patrick Corbin, another guy. If we could get dirt cheap, a lefty that could come in and eat some innings, not excited about him, but whatever. I still think Jack Flaherty is going to end up somewhere like Baltimore on a long-term deal with a pretty decent AAV. And if that's the case, if those offers are out there, we're not really in his wheelhouse. The Braves may push a big chip in and give him a one-year prove-it deal, but with a high AAV, but to me, it's highly unlikely. The other ones that are on the list, and these are guys that I think are actually realistic targets if we're going to get one. I'm talking about late. Kyle Gibson's out there. Not a big fan. I believe his best days are behind him. But he will go out there and give you 5 innings. They're just not always the best 5 innings you want to see. I like Jose Quintana because he goes out there, he eats innings. He's not a strikeout guy, but he keeps you in ball games. He's a quality start magnet. The other guy that's out there, Andrew Heaney, I've never been a big fan of his because I believe Andrew Heaney gets too much of the zone too often, and he doesn't have blow-you-away stuff, and he'll be 34, so his best days are behind him. Nick Pivetta, the biggest problem with Nick Pivetta is that he has a qualifying offer attached to him. And so there's probably not much of a chance that the Braves, or for that matter, anybody during this time period, is going to offer Nick Pivetta a big-time deal, any kind of a deal, because you got to give up a first-round draft pick. If I sign Nick Pivetta because the Red Sox did what they did and put the qualifying offer on him, it's not really his fault, but he probably should have just took the damn thing. But if I sign Nick Pivetta, to no fault of his own, I expect a discount. Man, I'm losing a number 1 draft pick. So I'm not going to pay you what you think you're worth. I want to pay you a lot less. So that's the dilemma with that. That's why I don't think he's really in our wheelhouse, because the Braves don't like to sign guys with qualifying offers. They like to acquire the draft picks from guys like a Max Fried, but they don't like to give them up. So then what else do you have out there? Guys that are not on qualifying offers that might be of interest. Jose Urquidy. Cal Quantrill. I still believe that's a guy that could go out there and eat innings. These are all number 4, number 5 type pitchers. These are none of these pitchers are you going to be leaning on in the playoffs. It's to get you through the season, get you through the grind. Mike Clevenger's out there, but he really has never been the same since about the last 2 or 3 years. Carlos Carrasco is out there. He's interesting. I kind of figure he might end up in Cincinnati. Spencer Turnbull, that still continues to be the guy of interest for me, but I don't know the particulars. And have there been, because you never find this until after they sign with somebody, have there been issues with him getting signed, much like Jeff Hoffman? Because I would have thought that the Phillies would have brought him back on a pretty reasonable deal. He can pitch out of the bullpen. He can pitch in your starting rotation. Phillies wouldn't have had to pay too much. There's got to be a reason why they didn't want to bring him back. But he does have interest to me, assuming everything's A-okay with his health and everything else. And then other than that, there's really nothing out there. Brad Keller is out there. Rich Hill, Johnny Cueto. There's really nothing out there. I think what the Braves really need to focus on is that bullpen. More than anything else, they've got to get the bullpen straight. If you get the bullpen straight, obviously Tanner Scott is the guy that's out there. After that, Lucas Sims, Drew Smith, Jalen Beeks, and Scott Barlow. That is the list. If you remember Scott Barlow, he was a part of a trade that came from Kansas City to Atlanta, then Atlanta moved him backwards. But that's it. There's nothing really out there. So, by the way, when pitchers and catchers report, the Braves Country today will come to an end because we're going to be doing live ball games, and the live ball games will talk all this stuff during the games. So, and the goal is to bring you more games than we ever brought you in the spring. We're still waiting to see what this means. If y'all missed it earlier was it this week or was it late last week? Regardless, the Braves announced that they were going to advance their coverage in spring training games, so we'll be able to bring you more. But the question is, can out-of-market people get it? Because we're not technically in the Braves market. We used to be, but we're not right now. So my question is, by the way, 3 hours ago, the Braves claimed right-handed pitcher Amos Willingham off waivers. I think I forgot to mention that at the top of the show. And designated Alan Winans for assignment. Alan Winans most likely will go through, and we'll probably put him on the minor league rotation. It's not a big loss if we lose him, but that's what's going on right now. We added Amos Willingham, so that's your big ad for this week, along with Garrett Cooper. But as far as the games are concerned, what they announced is that the Atlanta Braves spring training, 26 of the 30 games played this season will be available to watch through, this was their exact wording, through local television, cable, or streaming beginning February 23rd. The question that we have is, does that just mean that so for instance, how many games is Gray Television, which is the one that picked up all the local stuff for the Braves, they're simulcasting the regular games in the regular season, and you're going to be able to see them on the MLB app. If you're out of market, it doesn't affect you. But I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be the case with the MLB.TV, and we're still waiting for them to release their schedule. That should be coming about in the next couple of weeks, and at that point we'll have a better idea of what's going on. But as far as what games we're planning on bringing, the goal is to bring you about 2 to 3 a week, assuming that we have access to it. That's the gist of it. So we've got next Friday and the following Friday, and then going into February, we might do one more, but the Braves are going to have to actually do something for us to even get to that point. But once we hit pitchers and catchers reporting and the spring training begins, once the spring training begins, the Braves Country Today will no longer do those on Fridays because we'll be popping up 2 to 3 times a week during ball games, and this will be a part of the pregame show. Along with, if y'all have never been with us during the spring training games, we'll discuss what's going on during the ball games. Because we all know the spring training games, the outcome doesn't matter. What you care about is what you're seeing on the field and what that might mean. And this year, more than any other year that I can think of, is going to be critical to the outcome on the field. And I don't mean the wins and losses. I mean how the players are playing, because there's going to be a ton. Think about it. The last couple of years, the rotation was pretty much set. The starting lineup was set. You might have had one guy fighting for a job on the bench and maybe one, at the most 2, fighting for a job in the bullpen. This year, the bullpen's going to be wide open, even if they do add Tanner Scott. That doesn't spell the rest of the bullpen. We're going to have essentially trying to get on an 8-man bullpen, even if we add Tanner Scott. And let's say that we add another piece. I can still think off the top of my head, because of health and whatnot, that still opens up about 4 guys that we don't know for sure who are going to be in the bullpen. As far as the rotation, that's going to be wide open because Strider's not going to be with us to start the season. So 2 of the starting slots are going to be open for that. So you're talking about, along with the bench pieces, somewhere between 6 to 8 spots on our roster that are not going to be predetermined going into the first spring training game, So if it is available to be seen, we are going to bring you the first game of the spring training, which is February 22nd. On it's a Saturday's February 22nd, and I believe it's 1 p.m. It's versus the Twins. The Braves don't appear to be televising that game, but the Twins have not released their broadcast schedule. And if they are broadcasting, we'll bring it to you. Because just like in years past before, if I can bring it to you and I can see the game in any shape or form, we'll bring you the game. Doesn't necessarily have to be a Braves viewership. So we should know more of that, more about that, by Super Bowl weekend at the very latest. Speaking of that, we do have our show tomorrow, 10:30 tomorrow morning. All the guys are back. We'll be doing our picks for the NFL playoffs and the college football national championship. And you probably can't make it out, but over my shoulder here, over the on-air machine, that's Notre Dame and Ohio State helmets squared off. We used to have it set up where something actually sat right here, but it turned into a dumpster fire trying to get ready. All right, if no one else has any other questions or anything, we scroll through and see if there's any comments or anything. Good to see you pushing buttons. And John, I know I saw the Beeve. I thought I saw Gary. And who else do we have in here in this chat? David and Rizzo. And Rizzo, I won't repeat what you said, but I agree with what you said because we are going out on external radio. But watching the Braves, basically he was saying that watching the Braves let their championship pieces go away one by one is getting old. The only thing I'll say to you on the Freddie Freeman thing, that was not on the Braves. That was on Freddie Freeman and his agent. The Dansby Swanson thing, I believe that's bullet dodged. I never thought Dansby Swanson was worth what he was getting paid. And though things are not all sunshines and rainbows with Orlando Arcia, can you imagine if we were paying our shortstop right now $27 million a year, 25 to 27, depending on the season? Good night, Irene. We would be so cash strapped, it would be ridiculous. Hell, we'd be trading away Chris Sale to make room. So that was a gift. The Max Fried thing, I think the biggest problem with that is that they let it get to, but once again, he was always injured, but they let it get to free agency. If they would have locked him up 2 or 3 years ago, Max Fried would still be a Brave. But I understand why they didn't want to give him a long-term deal, because Max Fried could see the end of the tunnel where the big pot of gold is going to be sitting there. And the Braves were looking at it, man, October after October after October, there's something wrong with you. You can't go to the and let's not forget something either. He hasn't been good in the postseason. Even the year that the Braves won the World Series, yes, he was very good in the final game that he pitched in the World Series. But just before that, he got tattooed in Los Angeles. So I understand why that kind of stuff goes about. But it gets old because it feels like you can't re-sign anybody. You can't even lock down a guy who's making 11 over the next 2 years. And so it's not so much, I don't think Braves fans are as ticked off about, damn it, we've lost another one. It's the fact that, damn it, we haven't done anything and we keep losing these guys. The guys that are still out there, they're starting to get to a point where there's nobody out there. And because you haven't signed a Tanner Scott, the ball is really more in his court. He can command whatever the hell he wants to command, because I read you the list a second ago. There's not much out there for the picking. So that's the part. And I do believe that what they're really trying to do, they're trying to make a big splash in the trade market. But for whatever reason, it's not happening. The trade market is dry as a bone. We haven't really seen a lot of big trades regardless. But the trade market that we have typically seen the Braves get into, remember, those were always in December and very early January. We're 3.5 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting. And usually by then, teams like the Atlanta Braves have already figured out the roster, the ones that expect to compete. That's not what's going on. The Braves are still scrambling, and I hope they've got something locked up. But, man, it's really getting to the point where the fans, and rightfully so, are just getting not just irritated, just like, God, just give us the season. I'm tired of going to the Braves Twitter and Braves X and seeing, has anything happened? I mean, they have just done jack diddly this year. Everything that we've done in the offseason has been a subtraction. There's been no real addition. None to really speak of. The only thing you can say is, well, we're getting from the team that got eliminated from the playoffs last year, I'm speaking of, we're adding the left-handed bat of Ozzie Albies, because remember, he can only bat right-handed at the end. We're adding Austin Riley at third. We're hoping to add Acuna and Strider at some point. So, yeah, that does make your team better. But you got to have you can't go into this season, no Jimenez, now no Minter, no setup guy. Who the hell's our setup guy? We're going to, bring one of these? I mean, come on. Are we going to hope that kid that they say it's 16 is probably looks more like he's 28? Can he be our setup guy? All right, y'all. I'm done yammering. Y'all have a great weekend. See you tomorrow morning, football fans, 10:30 Eastern. And we only got a couple more of those left we're doing tomorrow. And then I think we're going to do we always do our Super Bowl show. I'm not sure if we're doing the following weekend because I've got some things I got to figure out. But we're definitely here tomorrow for that and the national championship game, and we'll definitely be there for Super Bowl Sunday. Y'all have a great one, and hopefully by the next time we talk, hell, I hope it's by tomorrow morning, the Braves have done something. Give us anything at this point. Also, next week, remember, it's the Hall of Fame. and we may end up doing the guy that I've got coming on to me with the Hall of Fame. I want to see if he can possibly do it earlier than Friday. So it may change. The day may change. Just keep an eye on the page. Y'all have a great one.
You're in Braves country.